My name is Jessica Eastman Stewart, and I am here to talk about how to balance it all as a working parent. So you're here in the right place if you're a parent and also working to be an entrepreneur like me. I am going to share 5 super practical tips and also some free resources for you. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing that I want to share with you, the first tip, is that it's okay to give up the guilt about being a working parent. Sometimes I hear from a lot of families, especially from moms, that they are feeling really guilty about trying to balance being a working mom and being a parent that they want to be. So I want you to know that society often tells us, and sometimes our internal insecurities, that we should be working like we have no kids and being a parent as if we have no jobs. And the reality is, and what the research shows us, is that being a working mom actually is helpful for our kids. Our kids are going to grow up, especially our daughters, and most likely make more money if their mom was a working mom, and they're going to be happier. So you don't have to worry, especially if your job is bringing you fulfillment. Because what our kids really need is for us to be happy parents. So I want you to give up the guilt first. Now, the next tip I want to give you is in more detail. Okay, so I've got more details on these at my website and on my blog at jessicaeastmanstewart.com. But my tip for you is to get some systems in place for your family. So the first system I recommend is a daily list of the things that need to happen in your home to keep things running the way you want them to run. In our family, we call it the Daily 5. And what's on the Daily 5 has changed over time because it's very specific to our family's needs. So this came out of having a toddler and a newborn, and things were just absolutely falling apart in our lives. I was a nonprofit executive director, and my husband also had a big job. And with 2 kids, we had just not built the systems that were going to allow us to have the life we wanted. It always felt like we were behind, we were forgetting things, and our house just was in disarray. And so we came up with the Daily 5. And the Daily 5 was 5 things. We wrote them down, put them on the fridge, 5 things that we needed to do every day. And if we did those 5 things, our house was going to be at least at a functional level. It didn't mean that every single thing was done. It didn't mean that we had a spotless home, but it meant that the most important things got done. And so we made our list of 5. And at that time, it was things like, empty the pump bag that I was taking to work every day and clean it out, get it ready for the next day, right? Because if you have ever been a pumping mom, you know that leaving that on the counter overnight is like devastating, and not having that milk, right, that you work so hard to get. We also ran the dishwasher. So load the dishwasher, start it. Took out the trash if there was any trash that needed to be taken out. Made sure we had lunches packed for kids and adults for the next day. At the time, we were both working outside of the home. Now, these days, we mostly work from home. But those were the kind of things that were on our Daily 5 list at that time. These days, our kids are 6 and 8, and I don't have a pump bag anymore. So we have different things that are on our list these days. But what are the 3 to 5 things that if you did those 3 or 5, don't make it 10. Like, you cannot, vacuum the whole house every day. I mean, if that makes you happy, you do you. But keep the bar really high. What are the things that really do need to get done? Maybe lunches, maybe unpacking your bag or the kids' bags from the day. And maybe it's something that the kids do. Maybe it's about dishes, and cleaning up that. Maybe it's about something about getting ready for the next day, like setting out the stuff for the coffee, and that really makes you happy when it's already done for you, right? So what are the 3 to 5 things that you need to do? Write those down, stick them in the microwave, stick them on the fridge, make them visible, and then figure out when you're going to do them. And for us at that time, we used the science of habit stacking. So habit stacking is taking a habit you already have, right? And you've got plenty of habits, right? Like you probably get in your car and put on your seatbelt. And you probably do that without thinking about it, right? So what is something you do that you do without thinking about? Maybe stack your Daily 5 on top of that. So for us, one thing that we never forgot to do is put our kids to bed. We literally never forgot that. We were, most likely being like, how many minutes until bedtime? So at the end, once bedtime was done, we would go downstairs and knock out the daily 5. It usually take us like 15 minutes if both of us were capable of contributing in a given day, right? And we might do another thing or two, maybe there's some, form that needs to be filled out. But what had to happen was those daily 5. And if we got those done, we were considered done for the day and we could relax, right? So that was the daily list. Once that was in place, we started with a weekly list. The weekly list was stuff that doesn't need to happen every day, but it does need to happen about weekly, right? So on that list was something to do each day that we only did once a week. So every day we do the daily 5, but we'd also do one thing from the weekly list each night. So for example, Thursday night, put the bins at the curb because the trash is coming the next day, right? So you probably have something like that. We also would do things like, wash the towels. That was on Monday, right? You might, give the kids a bath. And that might be on a couple nights a week, for example, unless that's part of your regular daily routine. But we were never daily kid bathers in our family. And so what are some things that you need to do once a week? Throw those on the list. And feel free to leave some nights empty, right? Like if you don't want any of these things to have to be done on the weekend, then leave it blank. But maybe you want to say, okay, we're going to wash the kids' laundry on Tuesday nights. We're going to put the bins at the curb on Wednesday nights. On Thursday night, we're going to give the kids allowance. Like, what are the things in your family and home life that need to be done about once a week? Put those on the list and give yourself one of those to do each day. That's the weekly list. Then finally, the weekly family meeting. And I've got a lot more about this on my website, but we have our weekly family meeting every Saturday morning. And this is where my husband and I get on the same page about the logistics and priorities of our life. You can read a lot more about our agenda for what we do on my website, but this is a key strategy for us. It's where we look through the calendar for the week. We think about what we're going to eat for dinner this week. We have the conversations like, do we want to send the kids to sleepaway summer camp? Is it time to potty train the little one? It's where we have those conversations. We discuss things like, how's our spending going? And do we need to move money around? That weekly family meeting is a key way for keeping us on the same page and getting clear about who is responsible for doing what things need to get done in our family. So those are some household systems that I recommend. All right, let's go to tip number 3. Okay, tip number 3 is to get a purposeful weekend formula in place. So thinking about what is your ideal weekend, right? And thinking about if you could design your ideal weekend, what would be the ingredients that would go in it? For me, things like some alone time just by myself would be a really important part. Another thing I've learned is that for us, when we have some one-on-one time with our kids, so the kids get some time with a parent away from the other sibling, that really works great. We get to connect with them on a whole different level when they're separated from each other. So getting some one-on-one time with each kid would be in my ideal weekend, right? Maybe it's like time with friends. Maybe it's time outdoors. Maybe it's, brunch with your friends or time with extended family, right? Time in nature, time reading, right? Like doing a home project. Like what are the things that you love to do? You love to go for a run, right? So thinking about those things, figuring out what is in your ideal weekend formula and thinking about what would be in the ideal weekend formula of the other people in your home and figuring out how can we look at that list and each weekend figure out how many of these ingredients can we fit in a reasonable way. Now, you're not going to have the ideal weekend every weekend, of course, but knowing what your ideal weekend looks like will help you get closer to it each weekend. Right? So think about that weekend formula and then plan ahead. How are you going to make that happen? All right. Next, delegate more. It's crucial as a working parent. You're already delegating some things, right? Like you're probably not growing all of your own food and creating all of your own clothing from scratch, right? You are delegating that by giving money to somebody else who's doing parts of that, right? Who's growing the strawberries, who is, creating the sweater that you're wearing right now, right? So you're already delegating. What else can you delegate? You can put resources towards that allow you to get back your very valuable time. And I know that being able to delegate different things is a privilege, right? Like it requires some financial privilege to be able to do this. But think about what might be possible for your family, right? Grocery delivery is one that is relatively affordable these days to get groceries delivered. So maybe that's something you can do. I actually love going to the grocery store, but given how affordable it is to get groceries delivered, that is something that I've said, you know what, I'm going to get that hour or two back and ask somebody else to do that, because it only takes me maybe 10 minutes to order the groceries on an app and then get them delivered straight to the door. So my time is really valuable. That's something that I delegate, right? Maybe you can have a virtual assistant, and that's pretty affordable these days too. Sometimes, it depends on who you're looking for, but you can find virtual assistants maybe to delegate some of the administrative tasks from your job or from your personal life as well, right? Laundry can be done for like $1 or $2 per pound. So maybe get all your laundry together and put it on a scale and see, okay, how much money would it cost us to get that done each week? And maybe doing that even if you do it every once in a while, right? It doesn't need to be every time, but maybe during maybe if you're a accountant, maybe it's like during tax season, I'm going to delegate laundry, right? And have somebody wash and fold it for me and bring it back, right? Could you have somebody doing holiday cards? Maybe you can just upload a spreadsheet of the addresses instead of doing it all yourself, right? So what are some of the things that you could delegate or share with other people, right? Like maybe you can have carpooling with another family that would get you off the hook from needing to do school pickup and drop off some of the days, right? So think about what else could be delegated in your life with the resources that you have. All right. And then the other thing is just drop things. Just drop things. This is my final tip for you. It doesn't need to be the season for doing everything all the time. Like when I first had kids, I remember feeling bad. Like I should be reading. Look at all these people reading like a book a week. That person read 25 books this year. That person read 100 books this year. How did they do it? You know what I was reading? Like Facebook and some articles, news articles, right? That was what I was reading. I wasn't reading books, and I felt really weird about it. And I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? This is not the season for reading books. It's just not. And I let it be okay. So figure out, what is it not the season for? It might not be the season now. It might not be ever. You know what? I realized we're not a family who hikes. There was a point at which I thought, like, we should set a goal to go hiking 10 times this year. Turns out we are not really that family. It's not that we never do it, but that's not the right goal for us. So what are you saying that you should do that you could actually just say, you know what? I'm not doing it. Maybe it'll come back in another chapter, but in this moment of life, it's not the thing, right? Like if your kids are in like the, baseball playoffs and you're going to be at the ball field like most days of the week for a month, like it's probably not the season to have a home cooked meal around the same table every night. It's probably the season for some fast food every once in a while. That's okay. It's just a season. So let it be true that you can just drop some things for a little while, okay? All right. So I've got some free resources for you if they are helpful. You can find them on my website, jessicaeastmanstewart.com/freebies. I've got a Polish Week checklist. This is to support you to polish up your business and work systems to be able to move faster afterwards. I've got an icebreaker, like a meeting icebreaker question bank. It's 12 pages of really interesting questions. So if you are ever leading meetings, you'll find this to be really helpful. And I've also got a life hacks book for travel. And it's got a lot specifically aimed at families as well. So if any of those are helpful, you can get them on my website, and I would love to support you with these free resources. And let's stay in touch. You can find me on Instagram at Joyfully Managed Family. I'm on LinkedIn, Jessica Eastman Stewart. I've also got a couple of email newsletters that are really popular. One is called Jessica's Friday 5, which you can sign up on my website. It's got 5 tips every week just for like living a more joyful and easy life. And I've also got a monthly email that is focused on managers at work. So if you're a manager at work, I hope you'll find that to be really helpful. Thanks so much for being here. I have loved sharing these tips with you today. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to being in touch.